Most of us would agree that we completely underestimate time. I mean, the Stoics were talking about this 2,000 years ago. Seneca wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And people have been preaching this ever since. It's not a new idea. I mean, we'll nod our head, agree, and then go back to living like time is unlimited. That's the problem, and we know it, but we don't feel it. Let me share something that made me feel it from a piece written by a guy named Tim Urban, and it's called The Tail End. And here is a section from it. Instead of measuring your life in units of time, you can measure it in activities or events. To use myself as an example, I'm 34, so let's be super optimistic and say I'll be hanging around drawing stick figures till I'm 90. If so, I have a little under 60 winters left, and maybe around 60 Super Bowls left. The ocean is freezing, and putting my body into it is a bad life experience, so I tend to limit myself to around one ocean swim a year. So as weird as it seems, I might only go in the ocean 60 more times. I read about 5 books a year, so even though it feels like I'll read an endless number of books in the future, I actually have to choose only 300 of all the books out there to read and accept that I'll sign off for eternity without knowing what goes on and all the rest. Growing up in Boston, I went to Red Sox games all the time, but if I never move back there, I'll probably continue at my current rate of going to a Sox game about once every 3 years, meaning this little row of 20 represents my remaining Fenway visits. There have been 8 US presidential elections during my lifetime and about 15 to go. I've seen 5 presidents in office, and if that rate continues, I'll see about 9 more. I probably eat pizza about once a month, so I've got about 700 more chances to eat pizza. I have an even brighter future with dumplings. I have Chinese food about twice a month, and I tend to make sure 6 dumplings occur each time, so I have an F ton of dumplings to look forward to. But these things aren't what I've been thinking about. Most of the things I just mentioned happen with a similar frequency during each year of my life, which spreads them out somewhat evenly through time. If I'm around a third of my way through life, I'm also about a third of my way through experiencing the activity or event. What I've been thinking about is a really important part of life that, unlike all of these examples, isn't spread out evenly through time. Something whose already done or still to come ratio doesn't at all align with how far I am through life. I've been thinking about my parents, who are in their mid-60s. During my first 18 years, I spent some time with my parents during at least 90% of my days. But since heading off to college and then later moving out of Boston, I've probably seen them an average of only 5 times a year, each for an average of maybe 2 days each time, 10 days a year, about 3% of the days I spent with them each year of my childhood. Being in their mid-60s, let's continue to be super optimistic and say I'm one of the incredibly lucky people to have both parents alive into my 60s. That would give us about 30 more years of coexistence. If the 10 days a year thing holds, that's 300 days left to hang with mom and dad. Less time than I spent with them in any one of my 18 childhood years. When you look at that reality, you realize that despite not being at the end of your life, you may very well be nearing the end of your time with some of the most important people in your life. If I lay out the total days I'll ever spend with each of my parents, assuming I'm as lucky as can be, this becomes starkly clear. It turns out, when I graduated from high school, I had already used up 93% of my in-person parent time. I'm now enjoying the last 5% of that time. We're in the tail end. Yeah, that piece, yeah. It also sparked the idea that you may have heard before, which is maximizing the 18 summers with your kids. If you're a parent, you've got about 18 summers with them all under one roof. After that, life just looks different. Kids grow up, they go to college, they start carving out their own path. The rhythm of family time shifts. If I had to guess, ask any parent with adult kids, they're probably nodding along. Now, some parents hear 18 summers and feel pressure or guilt or regret. That is not the point here. It's of course just noticing, about realizing that some seasons are just shorter than we think, shorter than we give them credit for. And once they're gone, they don't come back in the same way. So the question becomes, how do you want to spend the summers that you have left? Sometimes when I meet with families, I know they already feel this, and they'll say, "Nick, easier said than done." And maybe some of you are thinking the same thing right now, and I get it. These years also tend to be the most stressful career-wise and financially. I mean, you're trying to save for yourself, for your kids, pay the bills, and maybe squeeze in a vacation. It's a lot. It feels like a lot. And really, we're just trying to survive in advance. But sometimes we need to slow down, just like our savings tends to slow down in this season of life. Kids are expensive, and sometimes me just saying that out loud gives people a sense of relief. The return you get on time with your kids is just not in dollar form. The ROI will never be in dollar form. It shows up, of course, in memories, fulfillment, meaning. Again, we know this, but those payoffs are very real. And here's what I've noticed is that your savings are going to slow down. It's going to be okay because money and time don't move at the same speed. Money actually kind of gives you second chances. You can catch up. You can adjust. You can save harder later. Now, this is not blanket advice or even my advice, but it is somewhat reality. But time does not give you that option. It only goes one way. And then when people look back, they're not normally saying, I wish I would have worked harder that July, or I wish we didn't miss that contribution. It tends to be about that trip we didn't take, or just really allowing that season to quietly close while you were just trying to get to the next day. So, what do we do with this? What do we do with this information? Again, it's just knowing it, noticing what season you're in, taking advantage or optimizing that season based on how you want to live it. For some, that means being more present with kids at home and not taking that shift or doing overtime to spend more time with their kids. For others, carving out time with their aging parents or focusing on friendships, knowing that it won't always be this easy to keep. There's no formula. The calendar is going to keep turning, whether you notice it or not. So let's just start noticing it more. And here's to making every moment count.